So here we are. We're back in the market for pizza again. And we have our supply curve and our demand curve. And they still mean the same things they did before, which is that this is at every price, there's a certain quantity that the market will want to buy. Or for every quantity, there's a certain price the market's willing to pay. That's two ways of saying the same thing. Same thing with supply. At every price, I'm just picking a price here at random. Follow it over. Boom. Onto the supply curve. There is a quantity that suppliers would be willing to supply, right? The law of supply would tell us that. So here's our supply and our demand curve for pizza. And let's say that the population becomes increasingly health conscious and worries that pizza is bad for them. And you can go ahead and plug in any non-price determinant of demand that you want in order to make the curve shift to the left. So if people started to think that pizza was bad for them, they'd be willing to consume less pizza at each and every price. In other words, if we were started with a price of pizza that was maybe this, we see that that's how much pizza people would be willing to buy. But that if the demand curve shifts at this price, we see that people wouldn't buy any pizza because it doesn't even hit the demand. It doesn't even hit the demand curve. So people are willing to buy less pizza at each and every price when the demand curve shifts to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. At least I'm going to try to. And here we go. Just to keep the graph clear. So assuming now that the demand curve has shifted to the left, what do we have going on? Well, people want to buy less pizza at each and every price, but suppliers, their supply curve hasn't changed. They're still going to want to supply the same pizza at each and every price. Nothing has changed for them. At the original equilibrium price, P sub E, we see suppliers wanted to supply Q sub E. Demanders would eat that much too. But when the demand curve, D1, has shifted to the left, we see that, let me just go ahead and indicate that a little more clearly, has shifted to the left. We see now that demanders, instead of wanting this much pizza, are only going to want that much pizza, Q sub 1. So this amount here, we would now call a shortage, a surplus, misspoke, a surplus of pizza. The surplus tells the suppliers that they're trying to sell too much pizza at too high a price. In other words, this is like old school pizza, making a bunch of pizzas that go unsold at the end of the day. So this is the signal, and remember that we're very concerned about the signals. This is a signal to the market and to the supplier, to lower your prices and reduce the quantity you supply. Reduce the quantity. Again, there's no change to the supply curve itself because the cost of producing a single pizza hasn't changed. But they're just the incentive to make a lot of pizzas has changed because they have this surplus at the original price. So eventually we'll reach down here and end up at a new equilibrium. So it's really just kind of the same thing as in the previous diagram, except that we're working kind of in reverse. In other words, instead of a shortage of pizza because of an increase in demand, we now have a surplus of pizza. This is more pizzas than customers, right? So this distance from Q1 to QE, or if you want to look at it up here, this distance here indicates all the pizzas that are made but not bought. If you then reduce the quantity and drop the price, you'll see that you end up at Q sub E sub 1.